As Jefferson gets used to his new position as governor in the summer of 1779, the war starts to shift southward, and Virginia faces the possibility of bloodshed. By this time, the British had been fighting for 5 years. They're upset. The British have had a very unpleasant war. Things haven't gone well. Entering a nation and attempting to overthrow its current government is one thing. Attempting to occupy a sizable area is another matter. Armies capture. They require space, food, and shelter. They incite animosity toward them. Despite having the home field advantage, the British Army simply could not handle the process of being an occupying force against a much weaker power. Thus, in many ways, the insurgency has been unpleasant and unwinnable. Additionally, they have somewhat removed the gloves. However, Jefferson and others simply do not think that the enemy will have any impact on Virginia, even though he is responsible for the Commonwealth of Virginia's defense and protection. He claims that the war is taking place in the North. Additionally, he asserts that Virginia farmers must resume their operations. They must go back to farming to support their families. However, British ships were spotted off the Virginia coast at the end of 1779 and the start of 1780, and he responds to that slowly. Then, on January 1st, 1781, 1,600 British soldiers, including the Dragoons, an elite Green Coat division commanded by Benedict Arnold, overran Richmond and wreaked havoc on the newly established capital. The traitor Benedict Arnold leads one of the many deadly British attacks that are ongoing. An enslaved man claims that within 10 minutes of the British arrival, there were no white people in the town. The others had dispersed in all directions. Jefferson finds it difficult to lead a society that is disintegrating all around him. The Virginia troops have no chance when the British troops arrive. For him, the invasion of Virginia represents an existential crisis. Your neighborhood is home to the world's most formidable army. Additionally, there would be a great deal of personal insecurity about falling into British hands from a quarry as important as Thomas Jefferson. Then, Arnold's forces nearly captured Jefferson himself. "Where is Governor Jefferson?" asked the British officers. "We are here to capture Governor Jefferson using these silver handcuffs. However, he gets away." Additionally, the government must leave Richmond. They travel to Charlottesville. Virginia is in disarray. Virginia is in disarray. The threat against Jefferson increases as British troops advance through Virginia to the west. The British are getting closer to his home, Monticello, and the new capital in Charlottesville every day. Thus, he wrote to George Washington in May 1781. It's another appeal for assistance from Washington. According to Jefferson's letter to Washington, there are roughly 7,000 men in the enemy's entire force in this state. Your Excellency will make a judgment based on the current situation and your knowledge of your own nation's potential suffering during the current campaign. Additionally, the British are still trying to apprehend Jefferson. Then, as he drinks, Jack Jowett, the owner and operator of the tavern in Cuckoo, Virginia, hears several British dragoons reveal that British Lieutenant Colonel Banastre Tarleton has given them orders to move westward and try to capture Governor Jefferson. Jowett rode 40 miles overnight. Paul Revere's warning that the British would attack Lexington and Concord 5 years prior is reminiscent of this. The ride is much longer. Additionally, he reaches Monticello ahead of the British. "Gentlemen, they might be just a few seconds behind me," Jowett warns them. The legend goes that Jefferson thanked him for his efforts and gave him a glass of Madeira. Jefferson, however, did not depart immediately. He loaded his family into a carriage and drove them to Jefferson's property near Lynchburg, Virginia. However, he held off on leaving. Jefferson takes his time and calmly buries the state documents beneath his dining room's floorboards. Finally, at the last second, Jefferson mounts a horse and rides off. Additionally, he rides to Montalto, the higher peak directly west of Monticello. In order to make it appear as though Jefferson is running up the mountain, enslaved people had the horse's shoes on backwards when the horse was running down it. The British are also perplexed by it. Along the mountainside, he rides up. Then he gets off his horse and uses his spyglass to gaze back at Monticello. And there they are. Jefferson leaves Monticello in the care of the Hemmingses, his closest enslaved relatives, when he leaves. Monticello is overrun. Additionally, Elizabeth Hemming's eldest son, Martin Hemmings, meets them at the front door, denies them entry, and declines to provide them with Jefferson's location.
If they had, they would have killed him, of course. The British Dragoons captain retrieves a pistol from his side saddle. States, "You will tell me where Governor Jefferson is, or I will inflict a mortal wound." Hemmings pulls back his coat and responds, "Fire away." Captain McLeod responds, "Come on, boys. I understand Jefferson has the best-stocked wine cellar in all of Virginia. They all benefit from it. June 4th also happens to be King George III's birthday. Perhaps a toast was made." They rode off after putting the wine bottles in their satchels. There is no damage to Monticello. However, Jefferson is harshly chastised for his handling of the invasion. His second term as governor had ended 2 days earlier. The people of Virginia believe that he has abandoned his duty at a time of great danger.
He is completely ashamed. His actions as governor of Virginia in planning the state's defense are the subject of an investigation by the House of Delegates. His public life is at a low point right now. In a very kind, measured, and considerate letter, Washington tells him, "You're a good friend and your service was great." He says, "You're receiving unfair criticism." However, displaying physical bravery and perseverance was a requirement of being a man in Virginia, a member of that elite class. It was a very military culture, and this is an honor culture. Military service was valued in this culture. These men engage in duels for this reason. This explains why Jefferson admired Washington, and why Washington was so highly regarded during this time. However, that was not Jefferson's forte. He is thus portrayed as a coward. Jefferson is a laughingstock when he steps down as governor. In shame, the once celebrated revolutionary returns to Monticello. As Spanish, Dutch, and French forces joined the rebels in their fight against Britain, the tides of war started to shift in the Americans' favor by the fall of 1781. Yorktown, Virginia, is where the war ends. General Cornwallis's British forces had established a base at Yorktown. However, Washington's forces, and those of his French allies, besieged Cornwallis's base on September 28, 1781. The Revolutionary War came to an end when the British gave up after more than 3 weeks of ceaseless fighting.